York Post reports Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has held numerous meetings with his defense and intelligence chiefs, as well as the head of Mossad, to discuss possible attack. Tensions have intensified recently between Israel and Iran after a drone strike hit Iranian military facilities, Iran claiming Israel was responsible. Greg?
Let's talk with the Middle East Bureau Chief for CBN News, Chris Mitchell in Jerusalem. Chris, welcome to Victory News.
Greg, great to be with you.
So Israel is considering actions against Iran over their unbridled nuclear weapons development. Is the White House leadership and their policy part of the problem here?
I think they are. They're a bit of a resistance against any military action against Iran, and I think it's very important for Israel to make sure that it has the back of the United States, at least a tacit approval of any Israeli action against Iran's nuclear facilities. We do understand that that Israel has plans about that. There's been several top-secret meetings with Benjamin Netanyahu and his top Israeli officials, and so there's a sense here that maybe there could be an attack against this. Iran is enriching uranium now to 84%. That's just one level below weapons-grade uranium. So it's getting perhaps to a tipping point here in the Middle East.
That's too close. Now, let's talk about this week. Palestinian groups fired rockets into Israel from the Gaza Strip on Thursday. Why did they do it, and are tensions there growing now with the Hamas?
I think they are growing, and the reason the rockets came was because earlier in the day there was an IDF raid in the city of Nablus. That raid was meant, it was sort of a routine raid to arrest 2 terrorists who have been accused of killing an IDF soldier in several terror attacks. When they went into Nablus, they were not only attacked by those terrorists they were trying to arrest, but many of the groups, including Hamas, Islamic Jihad, a group called the Lion's Den, and that became, a firefight where 11 Palestinians were killed, over 100 were wounded, but that was all part of an attempt to sort of come back against these terror groups that have grown in cities in particular like Nablus and Jenin. Okay. After that, that's when the rockets were fired by Hamas, and then Israel responded against some military targets inside the Gaza Strip.
Okay, now Israel has approved 7,000 homes to be built in what we call Jewish settlements. The UN Security Council passed a statement strongly criticizing Israeli settlement construction. Why does it feel like Israel versus the world again on this one?
Well, it's really the biblical heartland of Israel. This is Judea and Samaria. This is the heartland. This is where Abraham was given the promise by God that that land would be given to the Jewish people. And I think ever since I've been here and long before, the really issue and the battle between Israel and the world has been what to do with this biblical heartland. Many Jews who live there believe it's prophetic that they're moving back to this land that was promised, 4,000 years ago. But the world doesn't see it quite that way. And so that's the battle that keeps going on.
Now, tens of thousands protested at the Knesset over judicial reform in Israel. Why is this such a major hot button for the citizens right now?
It's a huge issue, Greg, because right now Israel doesn't have the same sort of judicial system that America does. America has a constitution. So when people go to the Supreme Court, they sort of have a reference of what the Constitution says or doesn't. Israel doesn't have that. So the Supreme Court, many believe, since the 1990s has been sort of an extreme hyper-activist court on its own accord, really has no checks or balances. So right now they're trying to restrain that, and that's why there's such a big battle between judicial reform right here in Israel.
Now, the region's been rocked by earthquakes there in Turkey and Syria in 2023. How has Israel responded to their neighbors' plight?
Well, Israel sent up a search and rescue team right after the earthquake. They also sent up a field hospital to treat many of the injured and wounded, and they did their service, and they're all back here now in Israel. We were there for about 10 days, Greg. I've never seen any devastation like that, so people really need to be praying for the people of Turkey and Syria and helping them when they could. The devastation was incredible. It's going to take a long time for Turkey to rebuild.
Well, we certainly will do that. We've done it, and we will continue to pray for them. So let me ask you this. How have the Israelis responded now to the return of Bibi Netanyahu as the prime minister? How's it going so far?
Well, right now it's sort of a divided country, and much what like the United States. It does have a slim majority, 64 seats. It looks like it could be a stable majority, and maybe they'll be in for a lot longer than the previous government, which is just over a year. I think it really depends on where you fall and whether you support this government or not. I think they're going to be taking steps that perhaps the people on the left aren't going to like, especially in Judea and Samaria. But I think all people here in Israel are going to be agreement about what they need to do against Iran's nuclear facilities.
Anything we should be looking on the horizon for? Anything you can see that could be potentially coming news-wise in Israel?
Well, that's the big thing would be Iran. Keep your eye on that. Internally, keep your eye on judicial reform. It looks like it could pass within a couple of weeks, but that's going to be a very intense issue here inside Israel. And keep your eye on these terror groups. That's going to be a continual battle that Israel is facing inside its own borders.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, thank you, sir, for taking time to give us this update today.
Great to be with you, Greg.